Thank you for tuning in to another episode of That Tub Guy. I am That Tub Guy, and as always, we are going to be talking bathtubs, walk-in bathtubs, and bathroom remodeling related topics. One thing that I always think about, but is oftentimes a hard message to get across, is with the accessibility products such as walk-in bathtubs, easy access showers, stair lifts, and a lot of the home modifications that we do for the seniors in our lives or folks with mobility challenges or disabilities, is the mental health aspect of those decisions. And there are so many things that happen when you install a walk-in bathtub, a stair lift, a shower, a grab bar, in the independence and the overall mental health of the person who's going to be using those different products. And today we have an amazing guest. This is Kimberly Boatner. She is a licensed mental health professional with a private practice in Geneva, Illinois. I'm going to let her do her own full introduction. But today we're really going to dive in deep, and we are going to talk about kind of the back end, how to make this decision, all the things that go into making this decision. And really, I hope that families and users find just a ton of value in today's podcast. So without further ado, Kim, Mrs. Boatner, it's a pleasure having you on. And please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk about mental health with the aging population and with families, as well as for individuals that are, struggling with different mobility challenges, because that absolutely is intertwined with mental health. My name's Kim Boatner. I am a licensed clinical social worker, as well as a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I've been in practice since 2009, so it's been quite a few years. I opened my my practice, Oak Bridge Therapeutic Services, in 2017, and I absolutely love my office. We're right at the corner of 3rd Street in Fulton in historic downtown Geneva, Illinois. It's absolutely wonderful. And last year, I was fortunate enough to bring Grace Todd aboard, and now she is a therapist that's working with me. And we service.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's huge. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really wonderful. So I have my master's in social work from Loyola University, and along with taking my boards for to become a licensed clinical social worker, I also earned my certificate in supporting individuals with drug and alcohol concerns and addiction. And I've worked in group practices. I've worked within inpatient settings, ages ranging from 2 to, I think my oldest client was 87. Okay. So just really the whole kind of range of concerns. And I think working with older adults is one of my absolute passions. I just love working with older adults. In addition to my private practice, I also am part of a wonderful partnership with the King County Regional Office of Education, as well as several other school districts in the area. And I'm part of a mental health partnership cohort through Mid-Valley Special Education Co-op, where we really discuss the concerns within the community. And it's a bunch of clinicians from all different types of settings, and we really kind of work together to try to figure out how can we best address the needs within our community and offer resources not only to our clients that we work with, but to each other, and how to address kind of more macro level type of challenges that we face.
So you're not just in private practice. I would picture a therapist as being very regimented, like their whole schedule is just client, client, client. I mean, you're out not only supporting the community, but it sounds like you're also consulting with a lot of the leaders of the community.
Yes.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing that locally that your community has recognized the importance of mental health and that there are all of these different commissions and committees and groups put together where they're really valuing kind of what I call that back end part of whether it's education or anything else that the government or the school districts are doing. I mean, mental health is really the foundation of education,
Right.
of life.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have, it's kind of like the mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
People think about having all your chakras in line, and I'm really big on holistic medicine, and I'm always, and that's a big part of the reason why I'm having you on. I just recognize how important this is. But in your private practice, you captured a really nice list of kind of who you typically see. But with seniors and folks with these disabilities, oftentimes it's probably, I would guess it may not always be that senior that reaches out to you or that person with the disability.
Right.
It's a lot of support for the families and the caregivers, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and if you have anything that you want to throw in there, but it seems like there's oftentimes this stigma with seniors and the folks who need these mobility products, and that maybe they just don't want to do them because, for lack of a better term, they're being stubborn in the moment. And families, what type of things should a family be aware of when they know that this is the right move for their family member? I mean, outside of just the slips and falls.
So I think, when we're talking about supporting individuals either with that have a mobility challenge or that are, that are in a stage in life where they need additional supports for physically. But I think the mental health piece is so critical because one of the things I did in preparing for today is kind of just looked through some different statistics. I wanted to make sure that I was most accurate in my description. I'm sure you're out talking to individuals almost every day within the aging population, right? And I think, you see that the needs often are more than just the physical limitations because, you're getting a lot of caregivers that are coming to you saying, I don't know what to do to help this person, but I love them and I'm so afraid that they're going to accidentally, become injured or that they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. And I love them and I want to be able to support them. So I think some of the biggest pieces with mental health are that connection to family and community. And in my research that I just went through, the National Center on Aging has an article that came out in 2023 that says 25% of individuals within our aging population qualify for a mental health diagnosis, and 54% of them are not being treated. And so clearly, this is an issue that is growing, and we need to make sure as individuals that we can support them, restoring dignity to those individuals.
Yeah, one, I suppose, diagnosis that I consider frequently when I'm visiting with these folks and kind of thinking about them is, if you are in a situation where you are trying to live independently and some of the different challenges that you face are getting in and out of the bathtub. And if you are in a situation where you cannot bathe yourself or get in and out of this bathtub without a caregiver, or even if the caregiver is to the point where it is getting very difficult and potentially unsafe for them and the caregiver. You know, if you can't take care of your body, and you can't get around your home, it would seem to me like this would be kind of the formula for slipping into depression.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess, you know, whatever kind of feedback you have, because I think what families really need to hear is that is a real scenario that could happen in their lives. And, you know, what are some of the things that a caregiver or a family member could look for? Maybe some red flags, or also what are some of the, why is depression as crucial to manage and to make sure that that doesn't happen? You know, as a family member and a caregiver, you know, I think, you know, that I feel like so many folks overlook that. You know, they see someone with challenges and struggles in their home, and they just kind of are unaware of the mental health part of what's going on. We just look at it as what's on the surface, you know, slips and falls and hip fractures, or, you know, how do I now get
which are terrible, right?
They're terrible.
Terrible, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I think what happens though is so many folks say, you know what, I'm just going to push it a little bit farther. I'm going to push it a little bit farther. You know what, it's going to be really tight budget wise if we end up doing this major home improvement. And I think that, you know, folks don't even consider the mental health part of this. We all know the physical part. I mean, one trip to the hospital in an ambulance, you just wish you would have bought that walk-in bathtub, and now your hip doesn't heal like it did when you were 30, and you're in physical therapy, you know, inpatient, in pain, you know, and hope insurance covers all that, you know. Right. But the mental health part is just so crucial.
Some of the things that families can really look for when you are talking about, like, what are some signs maybe that a family could recognize that maybe more than just the physical aspects of challenges that someone they love is going through, but also the mental health side would be just changes in mood, energy level, appetite, difficulty sleeping, not sleeping through the night, difficulties falling asleep. Those are kind of some indicators. Difficulty concentrating and feeling on edge is another one that is something that people will see. Increased worry and just overall feeling more stressed, kind of getting more of those kind of panic calls, like, this is happening, I don't know what to do. Anger, irritability can be another indicator. Yes.
I mean, if a person, let's even say it wasn't a senior, anybody, any demographic, any age, if you are to the point where you're maybe able to bathe once, maybe twice a week, maybe even less than that, how would that potentially, you know, be a fuel for whether it's depression or any other type of mental illness?
So one of the qualifiers we have in our diagnostic and statistical manual is for depression and for other mental health diagnoses is a decrease in level of hygiene, right? And so that is actually one of the key qualifiers for symptoms in order to diagnose a mental health disorder or illness, right? And so if somebody is not doing well and feels very limited physically, and then on top of that now, right, it's like, well, their hygiene is so difficult to manage, right? That absolutely can lead to, you know, right, a sense of shame and frustration for them. Of course, I would expect that would be something that they would experience, right? But then for our aging population, who tend to be more in those, you know, the silent generation, or the boomers are approaching kind of those kind of in the, you know, upper 60s or 70s years old. Within that population, you know, they're so resilient. They're some of the most wonderful people that I speak with. because, they've been through so much. I can just speak for my grandmother, Lillian. She lives by herself in Kansas in a progressive community. And I'm so blessed and fortunate that, she's still able to share things from when she was a little girl. But right, like if someone's unable to just, manage their physical well-being and basic needs of hygiene, that will quickly slide into, more other challenges that could qualify them for something like a depression, right?
So it could also, you could say then, if you're in a situation where you're at home and, you're in this funk, you're not feeling good and you just can't put your finger on it. But part of the things that are causing you frustration are the fact that you just cannot do certain things in the home anymore.
Right.
I mean, it would be very fair to say that by taking care of some of these challenges and doing things one at a time, that they are really going to improve your mental health.
Right.
I mean, take care of the things that are challenges. Like if you're not able to get clean, like, would you say that that's probably top of the list? Like, let's take care of body and then we can start working through other things.
Right. So we have like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like we need sleep and we need food and we need water and we need shelter. And so when we don't have our basic needs met, and another one of those is hygiene, then everything else becomes that much harder. Right. And so when you have somebody who, oftentimes in mental health, we'll talk about biopsychosocial. So the biology of the person, the psychology of the person, and then the social supports of the person. And so, I could just speak for myself. If I've been unable to, to address my hygiene, I'm not going to want to go and socialize with people. I would feel ashamed and embarrassed. And so then now we're also impacting our physical health, but also now I'm feeling ashamed. So we got the bio, my physical health is not being managed. That's the biology. The psychological part is I'm feeling ashamed and isolated because socially I'm unable to, meet with my support system and engage in those very meaningful connections that are so crucial for all ages, but especially those that are in our aging population.
So at your practice, it would tell me, I don't want to make assumptions. So tell me a little bit about the support that a caregiver or a family member of someone who is going through this. I mean, would that be a reasonable thing to suggest that if you have this family member who is potentially going through depression and having all of these challenges at their home, that seeing someone, either you or someone like you, would make a huge impact and be able to kind of help them go through and filter through all of these decisions?
Yeah. One of the things I have found with caregivers is that they are wearing way too many hats, right? If the caregiver is a spouse, right, they've been their spouse's partner all through their life, and now they're managing the hygiene of their spouse, and they're managing meals for their spouse, right? So now I'm the cook, I'm do the housekeeping, but then also I have to monitor and do nursing type tasks, and so you're wearing so many hats, and they just get stacked up over a period of time, and I think often with that comes conflict, right? Because your role as a partner or as a spouse has all of a sudden dramatically changed, right? You're not used to having to tell your partner like, oh, you can't go outside right now. Like you can't just go for a walk around the garden because I'm worried that you might wander. You can't eat that because, I'm concerned you might choke. You can't just go take a shower like, hey, let's go get ready and let's go out. That's not how it works, right? I need to make sure that I need to monitor the safety of my loved one to make sure that they're able to take care of themselves in a way that, is safe. But I have all that tension built up too about, oh my gosh, don't do this, don't do that. And that creates a breeding ground for conflict. And so oftentimes when I'm working with a caregiver, I talk to them about making sure that they have support because, right, they're not used to having all these different hats on. They're used to just loving their loved one, right?
Yeah.
And so if they're able to, put things in the home that ease some of those processes for them, they're really able to then just focus on loving their loved one and not that they have to, okay, now I have to do this and I have to do that. And I'm also, so it's like, I'm the taxi, I'm the cook, I'm the housekeeper, I'm the safety person, and so really starting removing those hats so that they can truly just connect with their loved one, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And so I think caregivers, especially, giving themselves some grace and understanding that this is a very, very difficult role to be in. And it is an absolutely courageous role for them.
Yeah.
But that there are things out there that can really support them physically and then also mentally for them too.
So Kim, have you ever seen The Sopranos?
I love The Sopranos.
You love The Sopranos? I did too.
Sopranos.
That was like a series I could totally watch over and over again.
Yeah.
But in The Sopranos, Tony went and saw a therapist.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Right? It was
Yes.
like a big part of the thing. You
Yeah.
got to see Tony, the back end. But there was like this stigma. He wouldn't tell anybody.
Right.
Like he was like, I can't tell anybody. Right. And I think that it's important we talk about, there is this stigma. And, one way I think about mental health is, we have to eat our vegetables. You take care of your body from the inside out, right? We all talk about we've got to go get our exercise. We do all of these things to keep our body in tip-top shape.
Right.
But for some reason, we put up this barrier.
Right.
Like, oh, we can handle it.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like most guys, even myself, it's like if you feel some tears going on, you're like, oh, what's going on? What's wrong with me right now?
Right.
Like emotions are okay. Like these things need to be supported.
Right.
And it's one thing if you put them on the side burner your whole life, but when you have someone depending on you as the caregiver or their family member, and now, life is kind of like this bell curve. You start as a baby wearing diapers, you kind of peak at some point, and then your body, as you get more and more miles on it, you need more and more help again as things start to taper down. Well, when you're at the end of that bell curve, you have family and all the people you've put together throughout your life now supporting you and taking care of you.
Right.
And in these fragile states, I just think that it's so important that these caregivers and family members give their loved ones who have given them their entire lives. They're 80. We're talking about your grandma who's 98 years old. Give her 100% of everything.
Right.
And, I guess there's not a question attached to that, more of a statement, but, it is just so important because I, in my career, have gone into countless seniors' homes. And I always recognized that mental health. And, I hadn't always recognized it at the moment, but in hindsight, you see folks where, they haven't really left their home in 5, 6, 7 years.
Yes. Yeah, the isolation is something that is really prevalent. And, I was looking, again, kind of doing some research as I was, reading through different studies and things. And a study came out by a group, and I can even pull it up here if you'd like me to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this study came out in April of this year, so April 30th, and it was run by a group called FAIR. And basically, that is a nonprofit organization that reviews claim data and from health insurance companies in order to kind of create these highlight different trends, right?
So it's like post-treatment statistics.
Yes.
These people have had treatment or seen a clinician.
Kind of diving into the data within the insurance claim data.
Okay.
And so one of the things that they found, so you can find this, the article is called Trends in Mental Health Conditions. And like, I'm sorry, April 29th, 2024, not April 30th. I apologize there. One of the things that it is highlighting is the changes in mental health diagnoses from 2019 to 2023. And what I think is so interesting about this is that it is highlighting those COVID years and how that impacted our loved ones that are in an aging population or that have challenges within the challenges as far as mobility are concerned. But this one specifically talking about aging populations, they found that you can kind of see here the percentage of patients with mental health diagnoses and like the percent change. And these numbers are just unbelievable. So from 2019 to 2023, right, the amount of increase in mental health diagnoses within our aging population it's staggering, right? And then here are some of the conditions that are being highlighted mostly. So in your aging population, right, you're going to find a lot more general anxiety, major depressive disorder, even ADHD, which is something that, maybe we don't think about as much. But if you're feeling like you're having difficulties with focus and things, and this isn't even accounting for dementia or anything under the dementia and umbrella like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or anything like that.
Got it.
But this study really talks about how much impact our aging population has had because of COVID, and that isolation piece that you mentioned is critical. So when we're talking about, so we're, like kind of 65 and up, let's just kind of, just to put a number on it and generalize a little bit. We're talking about individuals who are probably, and I think of my grandmothers in this category too. My grandmother doesn't know how to use a cell phone. Mm-hmm. She doesn't even know how to use a computer.
Right.
She's never had to use one. And man, is she awesome. And she's so strong and so resilient.
Yeah.
But she's never had to use these things.
Totally.
And so during those COVID years, right, we really, the policies that were put in place took away pretty much all the social interaction that our aging population got, right?
Church, you name it.
Church,
social groups,
bridge
bingo.
club, bingo,
totally,
supper club.
Yep.
Even just, like a social at a retirement community or something like that. They're
super
gone.
hard to recover from.
Nursing homes were just horrifically hit.
Yep.
And when we talk about mental health, again, it's that biopsychosocial, right? That we as humans were never evolved to be in isolation. Right. Mm-hmm. And so many of our individuals within the aging population, right, have really been all those social supports that, right, they didn't use, Instagram or X or Facebook, but they had their bridge club every Tuesday. And then they had supper club every Wednesday. And then they went to church, maybe daily mass, or they went to church at least once a week. And they were volunteering in the community, right?
Yeah.
All that was gone. And so basically, and we've never had an experiment like that before within our lifetimes or theirs.
Right.
And so trying to figure out how to support these individuals, but that we just kind of took the rug out from underneath our aging population and set, and now we're kind of looking at ways to get back to that. But it's like they didn't have the technology, or they did, like my grandmother, she's not going to use it. Right. Yeah. So we were able to stay connected through like Zoom calls and or FaceTime or, social media.
Gosh, it's all coming back to me.
Right.
COVID wasn't that long ago.
When
you say this, it's all coming back.
It wasn't. And I know like it had a huge impact on our children and adolescents, but that's a whole other conversation. Right. When we're talking about the aging population, all their social supports were just overnight gone.
Yep.
And then a lot of people, if they were in poor health, if they got COVID or, that was just horrific.
Handicapped them even worse. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's like, with these seniors and, as people age and they get to that point, in their retirement where they're not traveling as much, a few different health things have kicked in, as as the family, and I even have some folks like this in my family right now, but you get to that point where you're kind of at the top of the bell curve. You're kind of ultra busy in your life.
Right.
You've got these folks to support that are coming down on the ladder, the back end of the bell curve, that need your support. It can be really challenging to give them the support and the time that they really need.
Right.
Do you leave things just kind of as is? Do it can be overwhelming to figure out what level of support and how you go about doing that.
Right.
And that's where I think, again, you are just such a crucial tool for families when they're going through these kind of things, because, you kick yourself for not making more time, but then you justify it by saying, I've got such a busy life. Like, I've got all this stuff going on, but everybody needs a day a week too, just to relax.
Right.
And, sometimes I think so many families have the same challenges, and hopefully families will just hear this podcast and they'll say, yeah, I can relate. Yeah. Okay. All right. I get it. Everybody's dealing with the same thing. Here's the solutions. But we can for sure say, being at home, spending hours and hours every day, in being secluded alone is going to it's not helping your mental health.
Definitely not helping.
You combine that with challenges, whatever they may be, getting up and downstairs, using the facilities, taking a shower, cooking food, all of these different things. We can 100% say they're not helping.
Right. Well, and also too, you have to think that many individuals within the aging population, they weren't going anywhere. So why do I have to take I'm not going anywhere. For years, most individuals weren't able to go anywhere, right? Because depending on where they lived, right, and the different policies that were in place
during COVID.
Yeah. They weren't able to. So it's like, I remember taking my grandmother. Actually, we took, my mom and I took my grandmother. We wanted to take her to her first mass after some of the restrictions had gone away. And, just the anxiety she experienced thinking about all the steps of that was just heartbreaking, because I know that faith is a huge part of her life, and I greatly respect that. It's been a part of her life since the day she was born. She just watches mass on TV, and so she didn't come with us. And I remember thinking, that is just so sad, because we knew, okay, my mom and I, we got her. We know she's going to be safe. We know we're going to get her there. If she needs to leave, we can leave with her. We wanted to make sure this was comfortable for her. And it broke my heart to see that, because there's so many unknowns at that point, because she really hadn't gone anywhere other than the doctor's office for, 2.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point in my life, this was pre-podcast and pre-YouTube and all this stuff. I was going and seeing seniors every single day, and the fear that they had. I mean, it was the fear, the quarantining groceries, and, just like, I'm not leaving my house because of this. And rightfully so. They heard everything on the news. Right. There was no reason to believe anything else.
And there is more vulnerable than,
they were high risk.
Our age groups, for sure.
Yep.
100%. And so, then but I think it just ramped up that isolation for them.
Absolutely. It did nothing to help mental health. Right. I mean, there was nothing positive that came out of that. Nobody stayed at home for 2 years or more and their mental health got stronger.
Not that I have seen.
I mean, I can't imagine it, right? I'm sure they're out there.
Maybe somebody out there, it has, it's not something I've come across either in my personal or professional experience.
Yep.
But you know what? There are exceptions to everything, right? So, but yeah, I think that's where, really focusing on, kind of moving forward from those connections. And then too, as family members, being respectful of the fact that they've had to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Years, in recent years all by themselves. They've had to do that. And so, right, I understand the frustration of, wanting to get more supports or even tools around that individual. You had referenced the frustration that family members are experiencing and stubbornness, right? At the same time, we have to understand as loved ones that this person probably did have to figure it out for themselves, and it worked. Not well, but it did. And so really, kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, so what are some things that we can do? What's one thing that we could maybe try to make this, just a little less hard, instead of let's fix it all right away, because that also takes away someone's dignity and autonomy, right? And that's not great either. So it's like, okay, so what do? You don't want them isolated, but you don't want them, you don't want to take away their ability, their autonomy and their dignity, right? So it's like, you're like, okay, so how do I do this? I think saying what's one challenge that we could focus on as a family that maybe we can problem solve around, and making sure that your loved one's a part of that process. And as far as like hygiene and safety goes within, the, just kind of just taking care of oneself is a really wonderful way to start, because, right, you need to brush teeth, you need to go to the washroom, and we need to take care of our hygiene. And how do we do that in a way that creates autonomy for that person and starts to restore a little bit of that dignity. And then I think too, when you start pushing past some of those challenges, it really kind of builds steam and kind of momentum for you to start tackling other challenges, which I think is really exciting. But also, again, reaching out to the person's, to your loved one's doctor and asking about mental health.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ask their doctor about mental health, their friend, like, how do you feel that they're doing? Don't be afraid to ask, because again, the worst thing that they would say, oh yeah, no, I feel like they're doing great. Oh yeah, then that's great, right? We that's the best case scenario, right? I'm not saying everyone within the aging population has mental health needs, but
as a family member, if you see it, these are the steps that you can take. These are some really
great steps you can take to start moving the ball forward on that,
yeah,
and building steam again for that, so that person's able to have dignity and autonomy, right? And again, we're talking about the generations that have gone through the most challenges, the silent generation and the boomers, right? They have gone through more, changes and they've gone through so much life experience. And so treating them, as an individual who does have preferences and viewpoints, and making sure that it fits their needs and not your needs.
Yeah. One thing that you said that just stuck with me that I really loved was you were talking about restoring dignity, and how that can give them the courage and the strength to take on the next challenge.
Right.
And immediately what went through my mind was a smile, and I'm thinking, okay, so, once somebody sees that their family is supporting them, or they take the plunge and they, for me, I'm always thinking about home improvements, so once they put that walk-in bathtub in, or they call and they have that new shower put in, that's going to give them this second wind. And, hopefully that means, they're going to say, enough's enough. I'm going to start figuring out how to get these dishes done every day, because it has just been causing me all this anxiety that I just can't do it. I'm going to hire that caregiver.
Or I'm going to go for that walk.
I'm going to go for that walk. I'm going to, I'm going to get someone in to help me clean the house from now on.
Yes.
It's giving you that strength. You just have to take that plunge. But I'll tell you, I feel like we have covered like an amazing amount of ground. I'm just so grateful for you and for, what clinicians like yourself do. I hope that everybody out there who's got something just kind of bugging them, or an inkling, gives you a call, or gives someone like yourself a call. Because I'm telling you that mind, body, and soul, I mean, it is as apparent as the sky is blue, especially in 2024,
Yeah.
that mental health is something you need to take seriously.
Right.
Seniors being as fragile as they are, it is not the right time to tell them, just tough it out. You can deal with this on your own.
Right.
Get involved. If you're a senior watching this, hop on, call, ask that tub guy. I will look somebody up in your area and give you a recommendation. If somebody is anywhere in the Chicagoland area, how would they get a hold of you, Kim?
Thank you so much for having me. And this has just been such a fabulous experience. I just love working with, people within the community. And I am more than welcome anyone, if they're having trouble, figuring out where that first step is, call me. My number is 630-488-6113. That's my cell phone. It's my practice cell phone, so it is confidential. I also have my website, oakbridgetherapy.org.
Is it okay if I pull that up real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Give a quick tour of that website.
Okay, so this is the website, oakbridgetherapy.org. Right here, you can just fill out, if you're, like I said, if you're struggling with trying to find some resources within your area, you can fill out this form, or if you're interested in seeing if services would be appropriate for you or for a loved one, please, the emails come right to me.
Okay.
And so I'm able to, if I'm not, the person that would be best for you, I have connections to some absolutely incredible clinicians within our community. And I'd be more than happy to just help you start navigating that process, because it is so overwhelming. So you can just fill out this form here. Or like I said, just give me a call. Would you be able to link these in your comments
I totally
section?
will.
Okay, thank you.
But if someone, for whatever reason, they just wanted to type Kimberly Boatner into Google therapist, I'm guessing this would come up.
Yep.
But
I'm also on Psychology Today.
Okay.
And so that's another way that individuals get a hold of me. But like I said, my phone number is 630-488-6113. You can text or call that number. And
text or call.
Text or call. Yep.
All right.
Yep. And then this form here links right to my email. And so those are great ways for steps if you're trying to find, what the next step is for you.
Kim, thank you again so much. I'm going to put all of your links down in the bottom so anybody can find you. This was Kimberly Boatner, licensed clinical social worker, private therapist, has her private practice in Geneva, Illinois. There's going to be plenty of ways to get in touch with her. And again, for any seniors, anybody out there, folks with mobility issues, caregivers, family members with loved ones who think they may be kind of going through something mental health related. The time's now, the clock's ticking. Mental health should be at the top of the list. Everything else that we're talking about doing on this channel ultimately is to aid in, of course, safety, making your homes beautiful, but it all gets the mental health barometer peaking. So we want everybody to take great care of themselves. Kim is a tremendous resource. We are again so glad to have you on here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks,
great. Thanks
everybody for tuning in.